Tú eres muy malo. Roto el pato de vestuario. La interpretación siempre negativa. Siempre negativa. Nunca positiva.
Welcome to Siempre Positivo after Barcelona smashed 6 past Valencia to maintain their unbeaten start to the La Liga season. Lots to get into, braces for Fermín López, Raphinha and Robert Lewandowski, Marc Bernal's long-awaited return, Raphinha's tardiness, Lamine Yamal's injury and the club versus country row that has followed. I'm Sam Marsden, and to get into all of that I am joined by Toni Juan Martí. Toni, ¿qué tal?
Good morning, how are you, Sam?
Good, yeah, I'm good.
Good vibes to start the week?
Good vibes to start the week, yeah. Getting back into the routine now, aren't we? We're halfway into September. It's a little bit like, not summer's gone, because obviously we need that weather update, and it's still a nice day here in Barcelona, still hot, but yeah, you're back in the routine. Football's back after the international break, and I know it'll be broken up again in October, but it feels like we're properly back into it now.
You cannot complain too much. School already started, so your holidays also already started.
Yeah, it's a little bit like that, isn't it, when they go back to school? Although you do feel guilt the first few weeks when you're dropping them back off at school and leaving them when you're so used to being around the kids sort of all summer.
Bueno, let's talk about Barça now, because Burnley, better not to talk about what happens in the last minutes. Again, the same like Manchester United.
Wow. Yeah, the Manchester United one was harder to take because Manchester United aren't very good, are they? The Liverpool one was a little bit like it had been coming, it had been growing, and the fact that it came so late is obviously disappointing, but let's be honest, I think Burnley had 3 shots, Liverpool had 27, we were down to 10 men, and you can't complain about the penalty. It was just a stupid decision. I've come out of these first 4 games, even though we've lost 3 to Tottenham, Manchester United and Liverpool, feeling that we will be a little bit more competitive than we were last time with the way we set up. So we'll see. Long way to go. 34 games to go. 3 points on the board.
As the pod says, stay positive.
Stay positive, yeah.
Clarets.
So, to the Estadio Johan Cruyff on Sunday, where just under 6,000 fans saw Barça for the 3rd time running whip Carlos Corberan's Valencia side. With Yamal, Gavi, Frenkie de Jong and Alejandro Balde all injured, and Raphinha, Lewandowski and Dani Olmo among the substitutes for various reasons. It was quite a new-look 11, which Hansi Flick put out, with the debut for Rooney Bardghji on the right, Marcus Rashford on the left, either side of Ferran Torres. But Barcelona was still well on top from the start. Ferran missed a good chance in the first half. It did seem that perhaps Valencia had weathered that early storm, but then Barca struck a really good finish from Fermín López, perhaps questionable goalkeeping. A nice touch. We'll debate whether he meant it perhaps from Ferran to set it up. 1-0 at half-time, but things really took off in the second half when Raphinha, who had been left on the bench, came on. He was left on the bench because he was late for the activation session. Obviously, Flick a stickler for his rules, but he turned to Raphinha at the break and Barcelona soared away in the second half. Raphinha with the second after a lovely cross from Rashford. Fermín then adding his second from distance. He absolutely loves playing at the Johan, doesn't he? After his brace versus Como there in pre-season as well. Raphinha then scored another really well taken goal to make it 4-0, and there were 2 late strikes from another substitute, Robert Lewandowski, his first goals of the season, both great finishes. The second set up after a pass from Marc Bernal, who returned to action. Lovely reception he was given at the Johan after over 380 days out since injuring his ACL last August against Rayo Vallecano. We'll see what role he has to play for Barca this season. Tony, more or less a perfect night. Rotations, goals for key players, Bernal back, and seemingly no new injury woes ahead of Thursday's trip to Newcastle to kick off the Champions League.
Great evening, to be honest, and it was not easy because without Lamine, with some injuries, with this issue with Raphinha, who was punished on the bench for being late, so there were all different handicaps for the game. Also, Valencia not the team that we used to see in the past 10 years ago or 15 years ago, but still they had a quite decent beginning of season. And to be honest, I think Barca scored when it was the best moment for Valencia in terms of they were able to survive, as you said, after the beginning, and that touch from Ferran is golden, no? And at the end, of course, with this Barca who is in love with having the possession once you are ahead on the score, is very complicated. No, normally with Barça, 80% of the times, if Barça scores the first goal, you're dead. And Valencia, for me, very bad in terms of not quality, but in terms of preparing the game. You have seen how other teams have managed to when they attack from the left, change the ball to the right and playing with these spaces coming from the second line. And for me, it was totally a disaster from Valencia. But I'm not underrating Barca's performance. I mean, I saw the centre backs very concentrated, very focused. Great game again from Gerard Martin, even if my opinion is the same. The truth is that he's still showing a lot of consistency, so we need to praise him. Pedri, incredible. Casado, always in the right position. With Fermín, unbelievable. Also Rashford, I think it was his best game since he joined Barça, apart from the assist, because at the end the assist that he gave to Raphinha, it's a little bit luck. But for me, his first 25 minutes, it's exactly what Barça needs on the left wing when there is no Lamine, someone who is able to make dribbling 1-against-1. So perfect. And then Raphinha, who was punished, also happy, because the evening can be different if you lose and then Raphinha is angry and then the atmosphere is another. But if you are punished, but then you go and you score 2 goals and at the end you hug your coach, like, okay, I accept it, and it's all romantic. And also Lewandowski enters into the pitch and scores. So at the end it was pink night, happy for everybody, also for Marc Bernal. So in terms of Barça, it was the perfect night in all the points. Perfect night.
Yeah, still so many strands to get into, but what was interesting, obviously after the Rayo Vallecano game, before the international break, just before the transfer window closed, we had that famous comment from Flick now where he said, egos kill teams, we need to play as a team like we did last season. After last night's game in the news conference, he reiterated, we played like a team, we're all together, we played like a team, this is what we want to see, this is like last season. Do you think between the Rayo game and the transfer window closing and Flick's message, Flick saying about the egos, which I'm sure arrived to the dressing room, do you think we've seen a sort of a switch, a change of mentality in those 2 weeks from the players?
Well, for sure it's true that it's obvious that the team showed a different attitude. And when I say attitude, I mean especially when it comes to running without the ball, pressing. Yesterday the pressing was really, really great. But for me the point is not that yesterday you saw a very motivated team, because it's obvious, no? This is like, for example, when you live with your couple and they tell you that they give you a warning because you are not cooking. You never cook, I have always to cook. Then on the next week you want to prepare a dinner. Hey, yes, I cook, yeah, but the point is not doing this just 1 week after. The point is if you will be able to keep it. So it's obvious that after that, against Valencia, you were going to see a very sharp team. The key point is if they are going to do it again, weekend without no need to Hansi Flick to say this, because yesterday it was easy to do it. And against Newcastle, probably they will do the same. But when you have 3 or 4 wins in a row and then you go to Getafe or you go to Pamplona to play against Osasuna, then when you have already won La Liga and Copa del Rey, you get relaxed, you don't press that high, and then it happens what happens. So it's there when I want to see if the change is real or it's only like when we shout, then we behave as we should, and then otherwise we start relaxed again. So for me, it's still too early to say, because it's obvious that after that they were going to react. But for Flick is not enough doing this in one game. And the second point, it's a little small gossip. After the break, Flick wanted to talk with the players, with the dressing room, because he wanted to clarify his point regarding the egos. I mean, you know that Lamine replied him saying that he didn't think it was nothing to do with egos and nothing like that. And to avoid some bad feelings or whatever, Hansi Flick after the international break, wanted to talk with the players to explain what he said in terms of, hey, I was not attacking you. I'm just saying this to remember that we have to battle, to fight as a team. So he was aware that maybe there was a lot of noise after what he said.
Yeah. One of the stars of the show was Fermín. We will talk about him now. But first of all, I just wanted to pick up on two things. Because I was going to talk about probably these two assists. Because you called Ferran Torres' touch to Fermín golden. And you said that Rashford's was maybe a little bit lucky. I don't think Rashford's is lucky. Because I think what Rashford is he's picked the corridor. Maybe he's not seen the absolute corridor and thought of picking out Raphinha. But he's trying to put it into that area where there will be someone for a goal. And I actually thought on first sight, I thought Fermín's was perhaps slightly... I wasn't convinced it was intentional, but you saw it the other way around.
I see the other way around for two things, because I think that I don't think it's like what Ferran did. He wanted to do exactly this, in my opinion, to put the ball into the space. And regarding the assist of Rashford, I think he had a great game, I already said. But if you take a look to the action, when he puts the cross, it's not a good cross, because the centre-back of Valencia can reject it easily, but he decides to not to touch the ball, and then appears Raphinha on the second post. But for me, yes, it's an assist, but for me it's like a great action for Marcus Rashford. I see a lot of value on, for example, the 2-3 runs that he made, changing the rhythm, changing the speed on the first 20 minutes. That was impressive. That's what I was saying. Yeah.
And Fermín then, 2 goals. He was obviously the focus after the game when we spoke to Hansi Flick. One question was getting slightly carried away, perhaps, sort of about asking Hansi Flick, who's obviously coached, Bayern to the treble, the German national team, etc. A lot of good players. Asked if he'd ever seen a player like Fermín López. I don't think he was saying like Fermín López in terms of like is one of the world's great players. Have you ever seen a guy like this? It's more just in terms of like his skill set. But obviously outside of Barca and around Europe, Flick would have probably seen a lot of players with that skill set. Flick's response was, let's just calm down a little bit. But he did say this was a good step for Fermín, that he still has work to improve on. But without the ball, he was aggressive. With the ball, he was good. But the bottom line was that look, he's far from the finished product and he still needs to improve a lot. Where does this leave the number 10 position? Perhaps, aside from centre-back, perhaps the most I guess, the position you say in the Barca team where there's not complete certainty before the season, and I'd probably still say now you'd expect it to go to Dani Olmo. But Fermín López has put his name in the ring, hasn't he, with that performance yesterday, sort of moving forward.
Yeah, I asked the same to myself yesterday, but I think it's too early to make a conclusion, because maybe if on Hansi Flick's head the game against Newcastle was more important and Olmo is the starter against Newcastle, we still should consider Dani Olmo the one who is a starter in the big nights. No? But the truth is that what Fermín is doing is incredible, because I think it's like all what surrounds him plays against him. For example, he plays, but then a lot of players, and then he's not playing for a couple of weeks, and then he has a disappointing second half, and then there is Frankie, there is Olmo, there is Ronnie, but then he appears again, and on the K day he scores again. So the spirit of ¿cómo es? Supervivencia? How do you say this?
Survival, so sort of
espíritu de supervivencia,
overcoming things like survival.
Yes, I mean the way he
just like a battling spirit, you'd probably say in English. Just like his battling spirit is sort of
It's incredible. The last year was the same. After not playing, then he had the chance because he was lucky that Olmo was injured, and played against Bayern and had a really great game, and again and again and again. And yesterday he scores 2 goals. So, to be honest, to tell the truth, he's like becoming a problem, because when Barca signs Olmo, it's obvious that it's for him to be the number 10, the starter. But Fermín is disturbing all the theory, all these things with his performance. It's incredible. And one time, and he scores, and then you can think, okay, but this strike, this run cannot be possible to keep it. And then he scores again. And then he has 2 games that he's not performing well. And then, okay, Fermín, you should consider an offer because you're not going to play a lot. You see it. And then, again, he survives again when there is any injury or whatever, and scores again. So I'm totally impressed and surprised he's battling with nails, with blood, to keep his place, and he knows how hard it is to be there, because he was in Linares on the fourth division, on the third division, of Spanish football, and it seemed to be impossible. But right now, if we do a poll, who would be starter in a Champions League final, or who do you want to be starter in a Champions League final, and you include Olmo and Fermín, who do you think Barça supporters will vote? So maybe with not that amount of quality of Olmo, but battling, fighting, and being consistent, I think that Fermín is getting that miracle, is taking the place of someone who is 60 million euros. You think that for the supporters, Sam, now, Olmo is still ahead of Fermín? I don't think so anymore.
No, I don't think for supporters. I think if you did a poll like you say among supporters, I think the large majority would say Fermín to start as number 10 right now. Maybe there's a lot of recency bias in there, because obviously he's just scored 2 goals at the weekend and Olmo's not done anything really this season. But I think supporters would definitely go for Fermín. I still have that doubt what Flick would go for long term and what will happen long term. But right now, in the very, very, very moment, I'm certain, a large percentage of supporters would go for Fermín over Dani Olmo.
It's incredible, because it's like it's easy to say that Fermín has nothing special. Some people, no, in terms of quality, but running, finishing, playing easy. So wow, it's incredible. Yesterday his game is amazing. Running full of energy, as it was the last game of his career. I saw him pressing, focused, being angry when there were fouls that he committed. So, I want to see what's going to happen in Newcastle, but at this level, doesn't make a lot of sense to put this player in the bench. Cannot imagine that he will be on the bench.
He deserves to start in Newcastle, yeah. My doubt would be, well, I guess there's doubts over Lamine Yamal's fitness, but my doubt would also be whether Lewandowski comes in for.
I don't think Lamine will start.
No, for Varane. But just back to Sunday. Obviously, Raphinha was on the bench because he arrived late. Like you say, that all worked out well. I was sat with ESPN Brazil, and they were speaking to Raphinha's camp, and they confirmed he arrived slightly late for an activation session. There was the day of the game. There was a slight misunderstanding on his part regarding the time, and he also had a slight delay. But all spoken about and understood with Flick, no problems, they said. And like you say, the fact that Barca won, the fact he comes on and scores, it's quick and easy to move on from, isn't it? And it's almost a win for Flick, because he gets to show that, look, these rules count for everyone. It doesn't matter who you are. If you're late for these sessions, you're on the bench. If you can do it with Raphinha, obviously in the past we've seen it done with Jules Koundé and Yaki Peña, etc. But to do it with Raphinha is another sort of statement from Flick's part, isn't it? And the fact that it doesn't have any negative consequences on the team, it's come off quite well in the end.
Sí, no, it's exactly what you say. The rules are the same for everybody. If you're late, you're late. Well, rules, are the same for everybody. And that's what it is. And I think you, as a coach, if you don't treat in terms of rules, in terms of law, in terms of rules, you don't treat everybody with the same law, with the same rules, you're dead in the face of the players in the dressing room. You lose the dressing room. So, well done for Hansi Flick. All these things are more important than a result. Even if Barcelona had lost yesterday, it was a good decision of Hansi Flick.
And Raphinha came on and scored twice. And also coming off the bench to score twice was Lewandowski, who's not started a La Liga game yet, but he came on, scored, took his goals really well. The first one smashed in off the underside of the bar. The second one a dinked finish after being set up by Marc Bernal. Do you think we could see a role where, obviously it's been injury influenced, this Lewandowski sort of reduced minutes at the start of the season, but when you see him come on yesterday and the effect he can have off the bench, do you think he could be convinced that could be a good role for him this season? Obviously, there's still doubts about whether Ferran Torres is good enough to be your number 9 week in, week out. But certainly sort of throughout the season, it seems like a good idea that we could see Lewandowski's minutes dosed so that he arrives fresh and good for the big minutes. As much as he insists, he did an interview with the Times over the weekend. Whenever he does interviews, he always insists he feels like a 25-year-old still, and he is obviously in good shape. But how he feels and what he says is obviously different to the reality what we've seen. And at times he does sort of look a little bit sort of not what he was, maybe obviously not what he was 5 years ago even. What sort of role do you think we could see for Levy now he's come on and scored those goals? Because he's obviously an infinitely better finisher than Ferran, demonstrated by his 2 chances yesterday and the 2 chances Ferran had that Ferran missed. Not to say that Ferran isn't good at other things, but obviously Lewandowski in terms of pure finishing. Just a reminder yesterday of how much he's still got it.
It's a good debate because we all thought that maybe this season there would be more balance between them, around 60-40 for Lewandowski. But the truth is that at the beginning is 70-30 for Ferran for sure. Lewandowski had this injury. In my opinion, I think Flick has experience, has a good relationship with Lewandowski. Ferran is really performing well, with really showing incredible levels of self-confidence, and at this point you cannot drop him from the lineup because it's not only scoring goals, it's pressing, it's all what he's doing, no? So I think that Lewandowski knows that soon his moment will arrive, because you cannot be excellent at every point, no? So I'm sure the moment of Lewandowski will arrive soon with this amount of games that there is in this calendar, and I think he perfectly knows it. So I think it's a matter of time that Lewandowski will start to be starter. But at the moment it's smart from Flick to trying to get maximum profit of this shape of Ferran, and obviously if he's performing, he will keep on the lineup, but it's difficult to keep performing like this. And once he drops a little bit, Robert will enter the lineup. I think it's kind of, we know that's going to happen at some point. It's more or less the same of Iñaki Peña and Chesney. I don't see Ferran started all the season. I know that we are September 15th. I'm sure that maximum in 1 month or something like this, we will start seeing more Robert Lewandowski as a starter, but not playing 90 minutes, maybe neither 80, so his amount of minutes will be reduced. But yes, I think we will see him as a starter. 2 games yes, 1 game no, 1 yes, 1 no, but more as a starter in important games. But this, yes, it's a big change for me. Will be a big change from the last season. We are not going to see him out in the 70 or in the 75. We will start seeing him more often being out after 60-65 minutes. So the debate is being reduced a lot. Now it's almost 60-40 only for Lewandowski, the battle.
Yeah. One final point before we hear from the astute among you may have noticed that Rick Sharma is obviously not here, but he has sent us his ratings through, so we'll play them in a minute. But just before we do, just a shout out, I guess, for Marc Bernal. Not too much to say. We've spoken about him quite a lot on the podcast over the summer. It's important that he's drip fed minutes now that he is back. But a nice moment this weekend as he came on for the last 10 minutes and set up that second goal for Lewandowski. I think the one thing you forget, or I certainly forgot with Marc Bernal, I was sat just above the presidential box on Sunday, so he was coming on right in front of me, and just the sheer size of him. I think he's 6'4", 1m93, just absolutely huge, sort of imposing midfielder, and how sort of important I guess that could be to Barca. Not necessarily this season, but long term, if he can establish himself to become what we hope he will, what we think he will, to have someone of that size in midfield. But other than that, yeah, a nice moment for him to come on, a nice reception at the Johan Cruyff. Obviously, over a year on the sidelines has been a long time, so it's going to take him a while to get up to full fitness, but we're going to see him start to play a little bit more in the coming months.
See, I'm sure that it's a problem for Flick. Well, I'm sure no, it's a problem because at the end, if he was performing well, but then now the double pivot is for Frenkie and Pedri. So all the coaches do like this to avoid the problem. He will tell Bernal, and at some point it's true, that there is no need to rush, that he needs to stay calm. So, more or less, until the end of the year, there is no problem. Because at the end, Bernal can stay patient. But, okay, you can be patient 2-3 months. But after that, if he performs well, I want to see what's going to happen. Because don't forget that he was a starter when he got injured last year.
Yeah, but he'd only played, 3 games. He's 18 now. He's just coming off a long-term injury. I don't think we'll see that problem this season, but yeah, you never know. Right, let's hear from Rick then and hear his ratings.
Hello everyone, sorry I can't join the pod today, so I'm just going to drop in my ratings here. We'll start with Joan Garcia, of course, 6 out of 10. He had really, really little to do. Valencia didn't have a single shot on target in the first half, and I can't remember if they did in the second, but I don't think so, because it was one-way traffic. Good with the ball at his feet, as we come to expect from him. Koundé, 7 out of 10, solid, reliable, didn't contribute too much in attack, but was, pretty solid. It's kind of a difficult game to rate some of these players, because in defence at least, they had very little to do apart from maybe Eric Garcia and Kubasi, because they had a bit more to say about the sort of construction of the play and building up. I'm going to give them both 7.5 each, and then Gerard Martin is going to get a 7 solid on the left. I was a little bit worried, to be honest, when we saw the initial lineup and you had Gerard Martin and Eric in the same defence, and I mean, to be honest, I've grown to appreciate some things that Eric can do. And as we've discussed last season, Gerard Martin has got better, but when you line up with both of them in the same team, it's a little bit worrying. But then, of course, given how bad Valencia have been against Barça in the last few years, maybe it's not that worrying. Midfield, I'm going to give Casado 7.5. Thought it was very nice alongside Pedri, 8 out of 10. And then for me, the weakest Barca player on the right, which is a bit harsh because it was his debut. Wasn't expecting a huge deal from him, Rooney Bartagi, and I'm going to give him a slightly generous 5.5. Maybe it could be 5 because he just really didn't do a great deal. He stayed kind of pinned out wide on the right and didn't really dare to take on his man at any point. He didn't do anything terribly wrong, but ultimately didn't really add a lot, and he was replaced, of course, at half-time by Raphinha, which changed the game a lot. Fermín López in the attacking 10 role. I'm going to give him a 9 out of 10. I'm going to agree with Hansi Flick, this was a great performance. He was brilliant, but he still has room to improve. His impact in terms of scoring goals is, we all know it, as we've described him many times, as a kind of Frank Lampard-like figure for Barca, but I think he can improve with the ball. I think he's got room to grow, and that's a good thing. Marcus Rashford, first half wasn't great, second half was pretty good. Nice assist for Raphinha, dangerous in-swinging cross, the kind of really upset the Valencia defence, didn't have to deal with it, and the goalkeeper, and then Raphinha slides into the back post to score. He looked good in the second half. He was. I liked his movement. I liked how quickly he attacks. He's very, very direct. Flick must have told him at half time to be more direct and really try and rip open this Valencia team, because that's what he was trying to do in the second half. And then the Shark, Ferran Torres, I'm gonna give him a 6.5. He got a nice assist. If we think he did it on purpose for Fermín's opening goal, it was a little flick on. It looks a bit unusual, so that's maybe why people are a little bit suspicious he didn't mean it. But it was okay. But then he missed some good chances, and ultimately, I mean, to be honest, the 6.5 for me is a positive rating for him. He is the backup striker, or he should be the backup striker, and he came in and did okay. Off the bench, of course, Raphinha comes on at half-time. I'm going to give him 9.5. Absolutely transformed the game. Could have completed that 10 by getting his hat-trick, because he certainly had the chances to do so. Dani Olmo, I'm going to give a 7 to. One or two misplaced passes, but did come on and get an assist. Lewandowski, I'm going to give 9 out of 10 to. just two exquisite finishes, and it's good to see him get off the mark. And yeah, I wonder if now he'll start against Newcastle on Thursday, having come on and scored those goals. I wouldn't be too surprised if he does go for Ferran Torres again. And then maybe Lewandowski against Getafe next weekend. We'll see how fit Lewandowski is. Geoffrey Torrents, I don't know if he was on long enough, to be honest, to give a rating to. And nor Marc Bernal, but I will say for Marc Bernal, it's nice to see him back, and nice assist, poked it through for Lewandowski's second goal. So those are the ratings.
Tony, happy with those ratings?
Yes, more or less, yes. Maybe I would rate a little bit higher Rashford, because I think it was his best game, and not only for the assist, just for what he showed, because when there's no Lamine, there is a little bit lack of 1 against 1, not in counter-attack, in static attack, in positional attack. And I think that Rashford was great in that point. So, yeah, would rate him a little bit higher.
Talking about Lamine then, let's just finish on Lamine, because he wasn't involved on Sunday. And if we rewind to Saturday, Hansi Flick unloaded against Spain, against Luis de la Fuente, against the Spanish Football Federation for playing Lamine Yamal in those World Cup qualifiers last week against Bulgaria and Turkey. He played over 70 minutes in both those games. Hansi Flick said he went with a slight groin pain, not an injury necessarily, but he wasn't able to train. He had painkillers to play in those games for Spain, played over 70 minutes, and now he's come back for Barca and he's missed that Valencia game through injured. Obviously wasn't missed in the end, and he's a major doubt for Thursday's trip to Newcastle. It's obviously a situation which Flick is able to be quite balanced on, because as he says, he was the coach of the German national team. Obviously communication is important with clubs. He says there's a lack of communication perhaps with De La Fuente. He says perhaps that's his fault because his Spanish isn't so good. Perhaps it's De La Fuente because his English isn't so good, etc. But it's something that can be improved on. And I don't think there's anyone that disagrees with Flick, Tony. I think it's absolutely careless to play an 18-year-old when we've seen what's happened with, Barca players in the past, young players. The injuries Pedri had after playing for De La Fuente in the Olympics that summer when he'd already played in the Euros. Gavi getting injured while on Spain duty. There's a body of evidence, whether it's substantial or not, sort of mounting against De La Fuente. And when you've got qualifiers that Spain are winning 3-0 and 6-0, do you really need to play Lamine Yamal? So I don't think there's anyone that disagrees with what Flick's saying here in terms of taking care of not just Lamine Yamal, taking care of all players and especially young players.
Totally agree with Hansi Flick with what he said, and I think he was perfect with what he said, with not really bad behavior. Just he said the truth that with that score, Lamine should have been rested. Of course, we don't know the conversation between Lamine and the medical staff from the national team, because imagine that at the end the doctors asked Lamine if he had pain, and Lamine said no, we didn't. I don't have any pain. So we should know all the story. And also, I think that this I don't know. That's only what I guess. I guess that also Hansi Flick can be a little bit angry with Barça in terms of, I need to coach, not to be on these battles. So it's someone else's job to be there and protecting our players. That's my feeling. But yes, great. For me, totally agree with Hansi Flick says. With Hansi Flick said, you cannot be against that.
Yeah, I agree with Flick 100%, and I think De La Fuente has been careless at times. But I just wanted to approach it just from the other side of the coin, because just not necessarily just to be fair, but if we put ourselves in De La Fuente's shoes, it's also in De La Fuente's interest that Lamine Yamal is taken care of. He's got a World Cup coming up next summer. Lamine Yamal is Spain's star player. Why would he do that? Why would he take that risk is what I'm trying to think. Obviously, we'll hear from him at the next Spain camp in October. I'm sure it'll be a big sort of discussion about why he did, why he didn't. I'm sure he'll say the medical team said he was fine to play, etc. and whatnot. But I'm just trying to work out, because obviously people say, De La Fuente's ruining Barca players, but it's not in his interest to ruin Barca players. He needs Pedri and he needs Lamine Yamal as much as Hansi Flick needs them. So why would he not take extra care when you're beating Turkey and Bulgaria so easily? It's just the one thing I'm trying to sort of work out in my head.
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly that. It's at the end is everybody wants or needs to take care of Lamine. Also De La Fuente needs it. But don't forget that when he was named national coach it was like unpopular decision, and then he was like friendly looking, humble with journalists in the press conference. But now that he won already the Euro Cup, he's starting to be more with ego. No, it's my decision, he will play, I'm Luis de la Fuente, changing a little bit his origins, and I think it's a good hit from Hansi Flick to say, hey, keep calm, bald guy, that you're no one still.
You may have just offended all our bold listeners.
No, but it's not. It's like saying blue eyes guy. It's just description. I'm also losing my hair from the stress of this club. It's nothing without respect.
Yeah. You can lose. It's easy to lose your hair at Barca. Yeah, there are those famous pictures, aren't they, of Guardiola when he started, Luis Garcia when he started, and when they finished. I can't think of who else.
Luis Enrique. Luis Enrique now. Look, Luis Enrique now.
Yeah, it takes it out of you. Although Luis Enrique's been through a lot besides just Barcelona, so it'd be more than understandable.
Yeah, true, totally true.
Okay, that's all we've got time for today, but it's an action-packed week. The Champions League is back, and what better way to start than with a trip to Newcastle United on Thursday. Barca go into St James's Park for one of their toughest games of the league phase. It will be interesting to see how they fare there. We will be back on Patreon after that game. Don't forget you can join us over on Patreon, where we produce bonus pods throughout the week, question and answer podcasts every fortnight, and there are also a couple of series on there, one looking back at past Barcelona seasons starting in 2001, building our dream Barcelona side of the modern era, with more to come. In the meantime, stay positive.